are intense, potentially long-lived tornadoes. Tornadoes that could be on the ground for miles, maybe for hours, potentially. Greenville, up towards Memphis, Starkville, back to Little Rock. Those are the areas this morning. Right now, just a few severe thunderstorm watches down through Texas, but the watches and warnings will expand throughout the afternoon. Angelo?
All right, thanks, Brian. Just months after one of the hottest summers on record, Utah is now blanketed in record-breaking snowpack. It's an unexpected turn in the weather that might put the state on the road to drought recovery. Chief Meteorologist Sterling Paulson got a first-hand look in the mountains outside of Salt Lake City.
Currently, we have 150 inches of snow depth here. So we got 12.5 feet. That's pretty darn phenomenal. And the snow water equivalent here is right about 56 inches.
That's 56 inches of water sitting in the snow.
It's really unusual that we're having such a great snowpack across the entire state.
In fact, mountain ranges all across the West are buried in snow. The Central Sierra Snow Lab at California's Donner Pass exceeded 650 inches compared to a normal full-season total around 360 inches.
In general, if we have 20 inches of precipitation in a snowpack, that's a good year. This right now right here is double what would be considered to be good.
And our drought situation is not as severe as it was a year ago. Several factors determine the drought severity: the amount of precipitation compared to normal, the amount of water in the snowpack, the amount of moisture in the soil and aquifers, the amount of water in our reservoirs.
As far as the drought, though, I mean, like you're looking at Lake Powell, Lake Mead, those reservoirs, those lakes will take a decade of above snowpack seasons to really impact and start filling up those lakes.
Bear Lake is currently around 30% capacity. Lake Powell is at 21.8 capacity. And the Great Salt Lake is only 2 feet above historical lows.
And experts say Utah needs above average snowpacks over the next 5 to 10 years to end the drought. California's relentless wave of snow and rain has left behind lots of damage from flooding, downed trees, rock slides, and more. But the wild winter weather is also impacting how people spend time outdoors, with many wilderness trails closed. Mason Carroll has more.
It seems like every week the North State is getting hit by storms, which leaves behind damage in the city and on our trails, like the French Fry Trail, closed by the Bureau of Land Management on Tuesday. Field manager Jennifer Mata says this is due to an unstable culvert caused by recent storms.
So we've got the trail closed and rerouted for public safety in order for us to do some assessment work and figure out a plan with our partners to get the culvert damage fixed.
Now, the BLM says it's not just damaged culverts, but the main thing they're seeing is downed trees as an impact from the storm, especially in areas hit hard by the Carr Fire.
And then we have partners that help us, along with our own staff, get the trees off the trail. But we've been in a continuous mode of taking down hazard trees since the Carr Fire. But, yet again, this year with the storms, it's just kind of more than normal.
Mata says there is no estimated time for when the trail will be back open. However, their crews have been working hard to assess the damage and fix it when and where they can.
But for bigger instances where we have kind of larger situations, that's going to be, till we get through this kind of winter weather pattern.
A little water on the street may seem harmless, but now add 6 inches of swift-moving water and it becomes an entirely different and dangerous story. Meteorologist Marshall McPeak is here with flood safety reminders.
One of the things we're keeping an eye on is the potential for flooding. A lot of that is happening around the country, but you may not realize how easy it is for that water to cause trouble. Only 6 inches of fast-moving water. That's all it takes to take a person down, knock you right off your feet and carry you downstream. Then, if you've got 12 inches, so a foot of water, that can carry away a small car, even a small SUV. Big SUVs, even large vans, it still only takes about 2 feet or less. And then that can get washed away. So this is why it's better to turn around, don't drown, because a lot of that water can really have a big impact. Now, the other thing is you don't know what's under the water. We see this a lot, where there's some flooding around. You've driven on this road a million times. You know it like the back of your hand. What you may not realize when it's flooded there's things lurking under the water. It only takes 1 inch of rain per hour to create some flash flooding. But even on roads that you know well, when they're flooded, things like, say, this manhole cover, well, if that's washed away, you can't see that under the water. Or if the road itself has been washed away, the water is hiding that. Next thing you know, you can drive into that and find yourself trapped. Again, turn around. Don't drown. You don't want the water carrying you or the car away. Be safe. Anytime you see high water, make sure you avoid it as best as possible and find a different way around.
And right here in D.C., the cherry blossoms are finally at peak bloom. That means 70% of blossoms are open. Peak bloom usually lasts for at least a couple of days, depending on the weather. Unfortunately, there's rain in the forecast today and also tomorrow, so that could take a toll on the blossoms. Beach season is growing closer, but there is one beach in West Palm Beach that is closed for now. A fix is underway to stall long-term erosion, and it will run underground. Dylan Herberman has more about that.
While some residents aren't thrilled that the beach is closed, they'd rather see this project happen than have the beach continue to erode.
We've been closing it part-time for years. It looks like we're taking a very expensive action, but I'm sure they've researched it and it's a necessary action.
Dr. Holly Sweat at the Smithsonian Marine Station says typical seawalls may only be a temporary answer to beach erosion.
The waves that come in, all those storms that we have, they're just going to impact that seawall and slowly break it apart.
Which is why the county opted for a steel wall, offering more protection for longer. The county's Deputy Director of Public Works, George Zama, says although the steel seawall is more expensive and takes longer to complete, it will last much longer, costing less money in the long run.
The wall will actually be within the dune and is just there for the emergency protective measures in the event that the dune washes out in an extreme event. So we aspire to prevent the emergency trucking and import of sand.
More importantly, Dr. Sweat says protecting the animals and organisms in the lagoon from ocean water long-term is essential.
If that were to wash out and stay open, so that we're getting ocean water into the lagoon for a long period of time, you would see probably some differing biological communities start to form. It would look more like a marine inlet sort of community.
Large portions of the country were treated to a surprising show last night. The Northern Lights, so vibrant right there because of a corner hole in the sun. That is not actually a hole, but is really a portion of the outer layer of the sun that is cooler, meaning the sun was not glowing as bright. The lights could be seen as far south as Alabama and into portions of northern California. And just like here on Earth, other planets have seasonal changes. NASA's Hubble Space Telescope captures the shifting conditions on Uranus. The ice giant rolls on its side around the sun and follows an 84-year orbit. So for 42 years, parts of one hemisphere are completely without sunlight. Even looking at the planet just 7 years apart, you can see the shift. And coming up on the National Weather Desk, potholes have become a major problem in California after all the winter storms. We'll look at how they plan to fix the problem.
I'm meteorologist Charlie Lopresti with Look at the Northeast. Look for clearing skies today. There will be a few more clouds, especially down into New Jersey and parts of New York. Temperatures today, they're going to top out in the 40s. The only complaint might be a stiff northwest wind. The wind will be gusting 20 to 30 miles per hour. Our next weak storm system moves in on Saturday. It extends through Saturday night and into Sunday morning. It will bring some snow, a little bit of a wintry mix, and most areas in the Northeast will see a transition over to some rain.
I'm meteorologist Jonathan Myers, and here's a look at the mid-Atlantic region, especially the northern half of the area. Some on and off rain during the day and lots of clouds working through our Friday. Look at that PM commute. Messy. Baltimore, even down to about Richmond and the Del Mar, but later in the day could get in on some rain. That's going to keep temperatures a lot cooler as you head north. Temperatures 40s and 50s, but still some warmer numbers in the 70s around Richmond, 80s in Roanoke. That's the scene here.
I'm meteorologist Vitas Reed. Here's a look at your forecast for highs for the day today. A high of 88 in Raleigh, 85 Macon, 80 in Atlanta, 76 in Pensacola, 89 in Jacksonville. Looking at mid-80s across parts of South Florida. Could get some storms pushing through along a front that's going to move in from our next weather maker. This front could fire off some severe storms as we get into Friday night and then into Saturday across Tennessee, up around Nashville, and then through parts of Mississippi. But that'll drop temperatures down through the weekend across the southeast.
Weather Window, presented by the National Weather Desk.
That's thundergrapple falling across Sioux City, Iowa Wednesday night. It was so soft you could smush it between your fingers. This is anything but an ordinary waterfall. Heavy rains and melting snow led Utah's Gunlock State Park Reservoir to overflow, creating this rare waterfall over Red Rocks. It's only happened a few times in the past decade.
The wild weather in California this winter has caused some serious problems. Homes have been destroyed, businesses have been flooded, and residents have been snowed in. But now the storms are revealing another issue, potholes. Sophia Lesios is in Fresno with more.
Man, these potholes are this deep and big around, you can't avoid them.
If you've driven around Fresno lately, I guarantee you've probably noticed your ride has become a bit bumpier.
With these series of storms that have just been relentless and then just one after another, a lot more potholes have popped up than ever before.
Potholes have taken over the city, sending crews scrambling to fix them.
With all of these rain events, these cool temperatures, it's very difficult to schedule time to get out and fill these potholes. But when we do, the moment the rain stops, the moment the conditions dry out, we go on a pothole blitz.
The city of Fresno says it has had over 3,200 calls to fix potholes since January 1st. Compare that to 8 months ago.
And we might get 6 to 10 calls a day in the heat of summer.
Man, we feel bad for the people.
Greg Bowe, the owner of Wheel King in Fresno, says his business has been booming since the rain started. He's been seeing 15 to 20 more customers a week.
You can damage suspension items. People have come in with bent suspension parts but normally it's the tire and wheel that takes the hit. With the consistent, the huge amount of rain that's been this year, it just seems like the potholes are worse.
And with all that rain, you may be wondering how many rainbow sightings there have been, but not all rain leads to rainbows. As meteorologist Lindsay Storrs explains, rainbows need the right ingredients to form.
We've all seen rainbows at one point or another, but why is it that sometimes you can see a rainbow after it rains and other times you can't? It's because 4 important ingredients all have to come together in order for a rainbow to appear. First, the person viewing the rainbow must be between the sun and the rain. Second, it must be within a few hours of sunrise and sunset. The sun angle needs to be less than 42 degrees in order for a rainbow to appear. Third, the rainbow will appear at the opposite point of the sun. So to see a rainbow, you'll need to put your back to the sun. And lastly, in order to make a bright rainbow, you need larger raindrops. Smaller raindrops tend to make faint rainbows. The brightest rainbows occur with larger raindrops. So the next time you're looking for a rainbow, remember those 4 ingredients needed in order for it to appear.
Well, the weather clearly plays a major role in growing produce, but what if there's another way to farm, one that does not require rain and sun and is sustainable? Paige Meyer explains that that's exactly what one farmer is trying to do.
to bring you the best strawberries, cilantro, pepper, spinach, and more.
So good.
Yep.
So fresh.
That's the goal of Agria in Lynchburg.
By being able to grow just like nature intended, I've grown over 170 different varieties of plants.
Layton tells me over the last 20 years, he's worked to invent this.
It's the secret sauce. The lighting enables the plants to be able to grow in the vertical farming system indoors.
All this produce is grown with no chemicals and a whole lot of flavor. And Layton says the produce grows 30% quicker, like this too.
More nutritious. And another thing we have too is a longer shelf life. All the chefs are telling us, you know, our stuff goes 2 to 3 weeks, some of it on shelf life. And the taste is incredible.
Oh my gosh.
And we have discussed urban heat island effect and microclimate several times on the show, but other factors also play a role in moderating temperatures. There, and Don explains types of temperature moderators in Seattle.
If you live near a large body of water, well, congratulations. You live near a large temperature moderator. How does it work? Well, these inland seas or large lakes, they're slow to warm in the summertime, so their cooling effect is to keep temperatures a bit cooler, maybe even a bit more comfortable. And when wintertime arrives, they're slow to cool, meaning they keep those temperatures a bit milder. So you can thank that large body of water for keeping you from experiencing more severe weather.
Migratory birds are making their way back north as warmer temperatures begin, but it's been anything but a typical winter for much of Wisconsin, and it's having an impact on some crane species. Eric Peterson has more from Green Bay.
They stand about 4 feet tall, and Sandhill cranes are known to eat whatever they can.
They're kind of omnivorous, what we like to call it. So they'll eat small fish, small mammals, small amphibians. So if they can find the frogs or salamanders in the water, they'll take advantage of that. They do eat some grain and tubers as well.
But what happens when that open water is a Sandhill skating rink? Or snow from recent storms covers these farm fields. DNR wildlife biologist Steve Easterly says the cranes may be caught in a cycle of severe weather events and warmer seasons overall.
It seems like the trends might be gearing a little bit to the early side. With the mild winters, it's not unexpected to have them come back early.
Others document bird migrations too. Robin Jacobchick is a naturalist at the Ledgeview Nature Center near Chilton.
With the warmer temperatures we've been experiencing, we have noticed that some of those migratory birds are coming back a little earlier. But again, it's really dependent on their food source too. So when they come back here and they're looking for insects or fruits, they're struggling to find those things.
Biologists say the cranes that are here will adjust.
We'll probably see them more in the farm fields now, kind of taking advantage of waste grain that's left over in the fields. We do have some open pockets of water where they could find food there. Most birds are pretty resilient. They've been doing it a long time, so they know what they're doing.
Well, some of the best artwork can be spotted in nature. Kristen Clark delves into the cause of frosty windshield designs like the one you just saw behind me.
When nature and art combine, cold mornings recently in Puget Sound have led to spectacular patterns of frost resembling ferns and flowers. When water from the air lands on a really cold surface like a car windshield, water molecules freeze instantly to form patterns of ice crystals. Sometimes the water molecules form into one big sheet of frost, but tiny imperfections in the glass or a speck of dust gets in the way, forcing the molecules to branch out into different directions and shapes that to us look like feathers and ferns. Mathematicians call this fractal design, and it can be observed throughout all of nature. But I got to admit, the fern frost and the ice flowers are by far my favorite.
And time now for a break, but as we go, let's take a flight with a flock of flamingos.
Friday morning, everyone. I'm meteorologist Phil Kelly. A lot of rain through the Mississippi Valley, through southern Illinois and into Indiana, parts of Kentucky, Ohio, and West Virginia, where we'll see flooding rain today. Dry in the upper Midwest, sunshine at 45 into Minneapolis today. Snow showers from Green Bay down to South Bend as we get into the weekend on Saturday. Snow showers across the Great Lakes as that rain in the Ohio Valley continues to push east.
Good morning, I'm meteorologist Alex Garcia. Here's a look at your regional weather. Temperatures are warm and humid down to the south this morning, 70s. But look at this, 30s on up toward the north. Much cooler. That shows you there's a cold front pushing through the region. It's going to start off some pretty big storms from Oklahoma back into Arkansas. Light showers back down toward eastern Texas, and then during the day, dry, cool air moves in. It'll be much cooler to the north and not quite so cool down toward the south. I'm meteorologist Alex Garcia. That's a look at your regional weather.
Well, hi there, everybody. I'm meteorologist Shannon O'Donnell, and a good Friday morning to you. Made it to the end of the work and school week, still with some cool scattered showers left in parts of the Pacific Northwest as we head into our Friday. Highs just in the mid-40s for the Emerald City and the Rose City of Portland, Oregon, too. Sun trying to bounce back in the Golden State, but you can see this next weather maker is going to keep a few showers coming through the Sierra Nevada and the Rocky Mountains into the weekend. And that's the scene from here.
You are watching the National Weather Desk.
Well, we've talked a lot about different types of severe weather events. So what are a few things you can do to be prepared really in any situation? Meteorologist Brandon Lawson has a few tips.
You also want to make sure you have those wireless emergency alerts enabled on your cell phone, because those can send you those flash flood emergencies, those severe thunderstorm warnings where 80-mile-per-hour winds or higher are possible. Those are those catastrophic thunderstorms that we can see. And then tornado warnings are also sent directly to your phone. This is the same system that's used for those Amber alerts that are sent to your phone as well. And then with any severe weather event, you want to make sure you have an emergency kit handy. Whether it's just some extra bottles of water that are stored in there, some non-perishable canned goods. You want to have a flashlight just in case the power goes out. A first aid kit for any injuries you could sustain during a storm. A NOAA weather radio. This is another good way to get alerts if you don't have a cell phone. And then also some extra batteries in that emergency kit can get you all stocked up and all ready for a possible severe storm that could come your way this spring.
And we love to connect with you. You can find us on all of your favorite social media platforms. Just search the National Weather Desk. We will be right back. And thank you so much for joining us. If you want to see more weather content, head over to our YouTube channel. Just search the National Weather Desk and be sure to subscribe while you are there. I'm Angela Brown. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you right back here on Monday.
Also be thrown out. In some ways, there is a new